What's cracking, people? It's your man, Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, representing high level technicians operating globally and beyond. So, listen, while researching data for a different podcast, I came across an interesting article that published unintentional data that screamed something that has been completely missed by the manosphere at large and by the black manosphere in particular. But here in the select manosphere, we see things from a vantage point that most don't, and actually that most can't see. An article on datingadvice.com featured data from multiple dating apps. And by the way, I'm going to leave all of the links to the data sets that I referenced in this video in the first comment down below. And what's interesting is that the original intent of the published article was to highlight the two segments of the population that are the least picked by according to race. And I can understand the focus of the particular author of this particular article. But this article has been passed around, and these data sets have been passed around. There's actually a book, excuse me, that's presented that is actually the subject of the article that looks at the overall picture of the data from the perspective of, a person who feels left out of the dating pool. But when you think about what it means to be select, that means that you are not only selected first, but you also have the power to select whom you'd like. And what's so interesting and crazy about this particular data set is that usually when you go in and you do research and you look for viable statistics, when you have a sampling size of a few hundred, that's okay, that's decent, it may be sufficient. But when you have a sampling size in the thousands, then your data becomes more and more reliable. This particular data set sampling size numbered over 2.4 million. Okay, let me say that again. They took this data set of 2.5 million dating profiles across 4 different dating apps. So the data was not only honest, the data was not only strong, it was overwhelming as far as what the results presented to the analysts of the data. And with that, they provided multiple graphics, 2 of which I'm including in the numbers that I have for this particular podcast today. Now, this podcast is centering on 2 particular graphics that were produced by this study. And what was interesting is that the original intent of the publisher of the article was to show that black women and Asian men were selected the least out of the dating profiles across the 4 different apps that were analyzed for the data statistics. And so there have been many blogs, many talk shows, many conversations around how certain people want to posit that, most people in the world see black women as the least attractive, and most people in the world see Asian men as the least attractive. What was also interesting, and I'm definitely going to include that graphic in this particular conversation, is that the anomaly, and they point this out in the article, the anomaly is that black men selected black women more than other races, and also the inverse, black women selected black men more than other races. So what does the data say at the end of the day when we break it all down? Okay, so if you take the selected segment of the population within the U.S., okay, black men make up 14 million, up or down within the U.S., okay, so in a population of 327 million as of 2018, that puts black men at a percentage of 4.6. Okay, so for black women, same population of 327 million, you've got 23 million black U.S. Non-Hispanic, non-immigrant females within a population. Okay, so that's a percentage point of 7.5%. Now, when you look at the data presented in the article about the number of respondents by race, the data points out that black women selected 9.3% of the black men's profiles analyzed in the data set. Okay, so that means that if you adjust for the population, okay, for an apples to apples comparison, out of 2.4 million being the entire population of the data set, the equivalent is out of 110,400 black men who have profiles across those platforms, only 10,267 were responded to by black women, which is the highest number of women who selected by race. Okay, so first of all, before we go into the female side of that, let's unpack that. What that says in the numbers is that black women who were given the anonymous choice, they did not know that there were going to be data scientists that came along and quantified the sum of their swipe choices, right? If they were given free range to pick the type of man that they wanted, they selected only 9.3% of black men. So that is the select data set from that particular range. And to further support that, there are countless bloggers, there are countless columnists, there are countless dating coaches, there are countless people who lament about how black women, as opposed to other types of women, choose for physicality first. They say, oh, I want a man to be this tall, he has to be this fitness, this width, this, that, and the other. And then they talk about status. Then they talk about his education. Then they talk about his dating history, and etc. So put that with the anonymous selection, which is proved in all of these data sets. And it's very clear that the numbers support the message that, hey, men, you need to get to the gym. Hey, men, you need to drink less. Hey, men, you need to work on your presentation, your physical fitness, your stamina, your highlighting your most masculine features about yourself. Every man has the ability. Every man has a muscle group that is his signature look. All we're saying in the Select Manosphere is that you have an opportunity every single day to work to enhance those. Keep your hair cut, keep your suit game on, as Kevin Samuels would say. Work on that imagery, because when we talk about the difference between being selected and not selected, men lie, women lie, but numbers do not lie. And anyone who wants to prove it to themselves, click on the data sets and all the numbers and the full article that I will provide in the comments below. But keep in mind that when we discuss things progressively and from an evolutionary standpoint as men, with logic, with reason, we have to understand that the men who have the experience, the men who have been in these situations, and there are many other podcasts that are going to stream from this particular podcast, because there's a wealth of knowledge, information, and experience from men who are from men who are targeting pre-select men, so that they can be groomed, they can up their game, they can evolve into masculine masters. And just as the numbers bear out, women are more than ready, willing, and able to select those men and to follow whatever the direction that man is taking his vision and his purpose for life. And she's not willing to compromise on it. That's why you've got a lot of single hot women. That's why you've got a lot of single attractive women with these amazing resumes, these degrees, these positions, waiting for the opportunity to select a man who's a part of that 9.3%, which, again, if you adjust for the greater population, translates into 1.302 million men who are currently select. Those are the men who are ready to go right now. We're not even factoring in the millions of other men who are pre-select, who just need a couple adjustments, who need this information, who need to subscribe to the Select Manosphere and to the content creators who identify with the Select Manosphere to make those small tweaks, those small adjustments, and to curate their lifestyle, to position them for the women who they truly desire. And now that we're mentioning the women, let's run down the numbers for the women real quick, shall we? To follow up on the other side of this research study, and which is going to be included in the graphic below, the original intent of the author of this particular article was to highlight the quote-unquote lowest response rates. Okay, what they inadvertently did was produce data sets that support that when black men choose black women, it's 16.4% of the black women who have those dating profiles. So when you look at what that means and you adjust that number for the greater population, that means that there are 3.68 million select women right now ready to go in the greater population. Again, that number does not include the number of pre-select women, the number of women who just need to adjust, make some tweaks, hit the gym as well, understand what etiquette means, understand what women in managing their ecosystem means. We'll go into that in another podcast. Subscribe to women like Nicole Michelle to get their grooming and their graces and their submission game on to select men. This particular movement within the numbers is going to bear itself out in the coming weeks, months, and years to follow. I just wanted to provide numbers that support the tangible reality of what the Select Manosphere represents. As always, this is your man Cousin T, aka the Alpha Wingman, saying, stay sharp and mission focused. Later.